degrees 3 minutes 7 seconds north latitude, 123 degrees 5 minutes 12 seconds longitude, 426 feet above sea level. Surrounded and protected by the foothills of the most vast and expansive mountain range in all of America. Blessed with some of the most bountiful panoramic streams and lakes this side of the Pacific Northwest. Birthplace of the revolutionary and sensational athletic shoe company, Nike. Dubbed Tracktown USA, it is the future host of the 2021 Track and Field World Championships. Eugene, Oregon, 2,906 miles west of Soccertown, USA. And yet, here at the heart of the Emerald City begins the story of C.J. Brown.
For me, when I started, I was probably around 6, 7, 8, somewhere around there. One of my close friends back then, his father wanted to start a little rec team, and I joined in and just played, and it was something I grew to really love. My dad was a football player, so it was kind of weird to go from to watching my dad play football to me playing soccer. But I just went from there, and I had a knack for it. But in high school, I think the talent is a little more spread out. So I was able to play multiple positions, and there were times, my dad was actually the high school coach at the time, and we had about 3 or 4 guys. I mean, we had a pretty decent team, but we had 3 or 4 guys that were at a really high level. So we'd place them right through the middle, so center back, central midfielder, and a forward. So we could try to keep track of all the areas of the field. And my senior year, I played up top quite a bit to try to help score goals, and that was my highlight of my career, probably in soccer, because I scored so many goals. But my dad and my parents just kept me involved in soccer. I played club soccer, and then I played in my high school, and you kind of, back then there wasn't a whole lot of systems that you could go out to get scholarships and stuff like that, and I don't think it would have been hard for me to go to a 4-year college without some sort of a scholarship. And St. Clair did a great job at scouring the Bay Area to find players, and there were not many people knocking at my door to go play, and he saw me one day, and he kind of followed me a little bit through my high school career, and he offered me I think it was a partial scholarship, which was great. I looked around, like I went to Concordia College, I think it was in Washington area, and went out there for one college visit, and it was interesting. I liked it, but it was far. I was away from my family. And then when I got back from that trip, St. Clair had offered us something and gave me a tour of the school, and I was like, you know what? It's local. It's a great opportunity. It wasn't like a huge, big soccer school, like like a UCLA or something like that, but it was a place that wanted to and had the drive to want to compete with the highest colleges, and St. Clair tried to build that environment for us. So it was something I wanted to do. It kept me local. And my dad has always put into me about, if somebody gives you an opportunity, you just do whatever it takes to be a part of it. And I always told myself, if anybody gave me an opportunity, I just want to be there. I want to learn. I want to, my ears open, eyes open. I want to do whatever you ask me, I'll do it. And whether there's awards for it or not, that's not my goal. My goal was to go to college, get an education, play the sport I love to play. Because after college, you didn't have the MLS at that point when I first started. And if you weren't on the national team pools, then there was no national team for you. So for me, that was it for me. I figured I was going there, I was going to get an education, I was going to play the sport that I love to play. So I was going to do whatever it took. And I didn't think there were awards for whatever you did on the field. I loved to win, I wanted to win, and I tried to do whatever it could to help. And it actually won me some of the individual awards, which was great. I'm honored to hear words like that from not only a coach, but I think a mentor I've had, and a guy that saw something in me when I was a kid. I mean, if it wasn't for him, I don't know where I would be, because that was my only way of getting into college. And he saw me through soccer, and gave me an opportunity to play. And I feel like I owe him, but he's always there every time something happens for me. He's always there to give encouraging words and support, and I just always like to say thank you to a guy like that. He was a huge factor in my life for where I'm at now.
He was a big guy that was intimidating. He was a guy that made sure that he had territory. This was his territory. If you were coming in, you were going to know that CJ was there.
I wasn't expected to be drafted, but they did start the San Jose State, not San Jose State, but the San Jose Clash back then, which is now the Earthquakes. They had the local team there. So I did train and try out for them once, and it probably wasn't the best day to try out because of the weather, but for whatever reason, I wasn't ready and they didn't pick me. And so then I've been playing locally with clubs. There's the San Francisco Bay Seals and the Santa Cruz Surf, and I every summer would go play with them, and they were really good local players from San Francisco and East Bay and all that. So we'd all get together, play games, and very, very competitive. So it kept me in the loop of the soccer world. And then, but yeah, a little disappointed because I didn't get picked by the local team at the time. But again, I never knew what it really took to be a pro. I was okay in my college. And again, I wasn't the best in my college days. I was good for who I was, but I wasn't one of those rated players. So it was never an expectation that I'm going to get picked for a pro team.
Yeah, it talks about the love of the game, and you get that a lot in soccer because there are a lot of players that aren't necessarily, you get your goal scorers, you get your guys that are scoring goals, you get your guys that you can make the fancy moves and nice passes and everything like that. But a lot of times if you're a back liner or a defender, the goalies can make spectacular plays. A lot of times what the defensive players do gets overlooked. And for CJ to be a guy that would stay with it and improve his game, and obviously be in 3 years with that team, and then getting the attention of Major League Soccer, that he just worked his tail off because it was something he wanted to do, something he loved doing. And he probably had a goal set to get to Major League Soccer, and just working as hard as he did, working as hard as he always did once he was on the field. You can imagine when he was busting his tail trying to get to a certain place. When he was with the Chicago Fire and we saw him, he was already there. But you can imagine people saying you weren't good enough. And they didn't have to come out and say you weren't good enough, but they didn't show interest. All the way back to not being recruited highly out of high school and things like that. So he had something to prove.
I tried out for the state team probably 2-3 times in a row and never made it. And it was disappointing because you go to these trainings for the whole weekend and you're training for so long, and to get that, you're not good enough is disappointing. But to me, that was what drove me. It was, I want to prove people wrong. I want to prove that I can make it. And not knowing what there was I was trying to make, I was just trying every day to show everybody that, hey, I may not be the best with the ball or this, that, and the other, but I can work harder than anybody. I have the attitude that will knock down doors if possible. And I just kept at it.
You can go to a game sometimes, and when there's a bad play made, it's because there's no talking, there's no communication. CJ was a quiet guy off the field, not so much on the field. He would communicate all the time. There'd always be communication between him and the keeper. There'd always be communication with him and his other center back, because you have your keeper, your two center backs, and that's the heart of the defense. So your left back and your right back are going to help out, but those center backs are what really helps your keeper. And he had that where you always knew he was going to be in position. So many times young center backs are going to be out of position. They're going to stray a little bit too far. They're going to try and make the play instead of doing what they need to do. And CJ was a guy that was able to count and rely on the people that were around him, and also make the plays when he needed to make them at his position. And I think that was something that everybody saw, not only here in Chicago, but around Major League Soccer.
Going with the Seals and playing with them was a huge boost to my career. It was an opportunity that if I didn't take that, I probably wouldn't be where I'm at now. They kind of got me prepared to play at the highest level, and then that was my exposure to pro coaches. I went to the MLS Combine, and you look before you go, there's like this huge list of all these ranked players I was nowhere to be seen on that list, and I'm like, all right, I'll just go and see what it's like. And before you go to that, you had to sign a contract, and I was like, well, what if I do well? I mean, I'm really thinking outside the box. Like, what if I do well? Don't I get to negotiate? You know, you think of contract, you think, oh, we get to negotiate. And they're like, no, you either sign or you don't come. And I'm like, all right, what the heck, I'll sign it. And went out, played, worked hard, and it just so happened Bob Bradley was the coach, assistant coach for DC United when we played them for the San Francisco Bay Seals in the Open Cup. And he had the first round pick, and I had a good weekend in the combine, and they picked me. My personality is not big at party, like especially back then, because I was a new pro. I didn't know how and to react to certain things, so I was kind of mellow. I had a great time in the locker room. The guys were partying like crazy. The really cool thing about the team back then, it was a very big family, and so we were all in LA. Everybody's families were in LA. So we all got together and we all just hung out at the hotel and had a great time with their families. And there weren't a lot of kids because we were all young, but there was a few. So, I mean, I'm sure all the other guys went and did their own thing, but since it was in California, I had a lot of my family there, so I spent most of the time with my family, and everything was just real mellow. It was just a great memory. That's very emotional. I mean, you want to stay so focused at winning and doing what you do every day, and you want to win a championship. Meanwhile, my wife is in California planning our wedding, and I have to get there that night for the wedding the next morning. My focus is, I can't wait to get married, and then another focus is I have to be so focused to win a championship or have a chance to win a championship. So the club was very, very gracious and great to me because they allowed me to play that game. And then Ann Schutz was the owner at the time. He flew in for the game, so I flew out with them on their private jet, which was awesome. It flew us into Colorado. They dropped him off at home, and then they took off again and took me to San Jose. I look at it as I won 2 championships in one night. I got to win the Open Cup championship, and then I get to win my bride. She's been a huge backbone to not just my career, but my life. And we met in college, and she's been there through the good times and the bad times, and she's like I said, the backbone. She's the backbone of what I do, and I'm a guy that needs to be stable, and she keeps me stable. Soccer Foundation is putting money into the communities to grow the sport, to provide more resources for young kids to play the sport. Obviously with MLS being around and MLS growing and putting money back into the communities is helping. It's the development, the money that they're putting into development now for kids is unbelievable. I mean, from the day I played to now, we didn't have academies, we didn't have specialty coaches coming in. We had parents. Our parents would read on it or go out and throw a soccer ball and we just go play. Now you have coaches that are actually professional coaches, and they're updating every year the coach's license. It was easy to get a coaching license. Now you actually have to put some time in going to school and doing the study. So I think the resources that they're putting into developing soccer is getting better. It's not at the highest levels yet, but it's not a lack of trying. They are trying. The talent of these kids, and you're signing kids at such a young age now in the U.S. that we still need to stay focused on them because they're the future. They're the future of what we have. And I mean, if you look in the parks now, back in the day, it was always baseball. It's always going to be basketball. But if you look in the parks now, it's a lot of soccer.